The great northern wilderness. So this once was called. Today, the Adirondacks are only a day's drive from home for half the people in the United States and Canada. Every year, more people are discovering the splendor of these highlands during this enchanted season.
So I really like to hike in the Adirondacks, but every time I go by Cascade or I go by Giant, just see hordes of cars. And to me, that is the quintessential sign, as just a resident of the park, sign of overuse. A couple summers ago, I decided to go up Cascade, and it was like marching up in a line with a bunch of other hikers going up the mountain. And you go into the mountains, for, at least from my perspective, to escape. You want that sense of solitude, and you want to connect with nature and forget about other life for a little bit. But in that particular experience, I found that I couldn't do that.
2.4 million more people are visiting the Adirondacks in 2010 than they were in 2001, and you can really see the difference. There's a lot more people who want to enjoy the outdoors, which is really great. Obviously, that gives us all kind of a connection to nature and want to protect this place even more, but we need to have some sort of way to manage it.
Folks who are coming to the Adirondacks for the first time may never have experienced trails that are quite as rugged, trail conditions that are quite as challenging, weather conditions that are challenging. So we see an increased number of rescues. I've been with ADK since 2004. I have gotten to witness this really dramatic rise in the number of rescues, in the number of people who are getting lost. You can talk about the more intangible aspects in terms of crowding and that loss of solitude as an experience. And of course, you can talk about the impacts on the wildlife and on the flora.
Over 130 trails in the High Peaks Wilderness area are in need of some sort of trail work redesigning because they're just suffering. A lot of the Adirondack trails were designed to go straight up. That was from bushwhacking or just people who were doing surveying and wanted the quickest route up. But it's not sustainable, right? And it's not easy for people who are hiking. So incorporating slower transitions up the mountain, so having a lot more switchbacks and things like that, are exactly what we want to see and what they're doing at Mount Van Hoevenberg.
The 2018 UMP amendment laid out the proposal to reroute the trail up Cascade, and part of that is a combined effort of creating an education information center at the Van Hoevenberg Sporting Complex and providing access and a new trail to the summit of Mount Van Hoevenberg. We are making these trails to be the most sustainable trails in the High Peaks.
We're looking at the numbers on the summits of the High Peaks compared to the 1970s when it was in really poor shape. Probably the summits were at their worst shape then, and restoration and protection of the summits began then. Now we got a lot more people going up those mountains. But if you compare the summits now to then, they're in good shape, and that's a direct result of the Summit Steward program that DEC and ADK are partners in.
It's really amazing to see what people are willing as recreators and people who love visiting the Adirondacks, what they're willing to do to help protect this place for the next generation. When you really put people to the test, they're willing to do more than maybe you would assume. People are willing to pay a permit or willing to go somewhere else or willing to listen to some sort of educational opportunity, and the assumption that people just want to get out and go outside and they don't want any barriers to that isn't always necessarily true.
There isn't a silver bullet. We have to have education, and education is kind of the low-hanging fruit because it is easiest, least expensive, and can be most immediately effective. One of the things that has happened historically is that we address challenges as being singular and in singular locations. We need solutions to these problems that look comprehensively, thinking about the trails, about increasing the presence of the State Department of Environmental Conservation people on the ground, about things at a policy level so that the management is really done in a comprehensive way, in a way that really recognizes that this is a special place it is deserving of being protected as such, and that it is a place that we should all be proud to model to the rest of the state and even the rest of the world.